Good evening again. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Zaruhi Karapetyan, or you can shortly call me Zara. And in celebration of Women's History Month, I'm happy and honored to moderate the career panel on empowering women starting a career in life sciences. Today's panel is hosted by LifeSci NYC internship program. This discussion will begin with together inspiring women in fields to share their journeys, challenges, and also advice for those who are looking to break into this industry. And to give you an overview, we will start with a quick program introduction, followed by introduction to today's panelists. And the event will conclude with an opportunity for Q&A. At any time, feel free to write any questions you have on our chat, and we will answer them at the end of this discussion. Also, you will have the opportunity to ask questions out loud by using the hand raise option on Zoom. And I want to mention that this session will be recorded and the link to video will be shared via email. Next slide, please. Thank you. Brief introduction of our program. The LifeSci NYC internship program is part of the New York City's Economic Development Corporation's 10 years, $1 billion initiative to grow the life sciences industry in New York City. The program offers paid internships and full-time and part-time job opportunities for both undergrads and graduate students, as well as recent graduates in either science or business management roles. And since 2017, we have placed over 1,000 interns at over 220 companies and organizations in New York City. And we currently have around 100 open internship jobs and positions. And also more coming in all the time. And this is a single location where you can complete one application per academic year and have access to job listings at multiple companies. So we created a series of career profiles that offer an overview of career options in the life sciences industry. Each profile includes details about educational requirements, job responsibilities, desired skills and qualifications, as well as insights from the professionals who are currently working in these roles. On the next slide, are specifically this career profile for science communication and marketing role. As you can see, the top provides an overview followed by a list of everyday tasks and responsibilities. You can see who is hiring, the list of skills and qualifications, and also program alumni quotes. Our program also provides career development resources to the students in New York City. Here are some resources that you can use while you are looking for new opportunities. On the right-hand side, you can see links to the career profiles, resume and cover letter cheat sheet, professional letter cheat sheet. On the other side are more details about our program, a link to our office hour with our placement team, as well as links to our social media to get updates about our new jobs and openings and career development events. I want to encourage you to reach out to us via internships@upperwaystrategies.com if you have any questions. Also, I want also invite you to our career development network, LinkedIn group. Here you can learn about career resources, events, and job openings in New York City, and you can contribute to our growing life sciences community. So feel free to join. You can find the link in the chat. Please check the chat. And now I want to introduce our panelists. We have here Alice Chang, co-founder and Campus RX. She's a LifeSci alumni. Hello. We have Joanna Goniewska, founder at T-Shape and chair at Women in Bio, Metro New York chapter. Hello. And Chidera Udedibia, research assistant at the Rockefeller University. She is also a LifeSci alumni. And I want to start with like brief introduction of our panelists. Please feel free to introduce yourself, current role, the company, and you can also give a summary of your education and career path up to this point, please. Who wants to go first?
I'm happy to go first. I was listed.
Sure.
First. Hi, everyone. I'm Alice. I'm one of the co-founders of CompassRx. We're an AI company that's focused on helping hospital-owned pharmacies maximize their 340B programs. 340B is a federal drug discount program that shifts profits from drug manufacturers to safety net providers. And those profits are used to help provide better access to care for patients. And so I think in this time of turmoil and a lot of health policies changing, it's really important to help health systems, especially those ones who are struggling, figure out where the right incentives are and how to align those to provide better care for their patients. A little bit about how I got here. I went to NYU. I saw that there's some NYU alums in the chat as well. I was on the pre-med track, obviously wanted to be a doctor like a lot of other people. And I actually did my life sci internship, I think it was my junior year, a very, very long time ago. And kind of realized that there was more out there. And I really liked the innovative and fast-moving pace of a startup. And so I've sort of always worked at the intersection of healthcare and technology ever since. I started my career working in digital therapeutics, which at the time was a very nascent space. There are mobile apps on your phone that treat disease with the same clinical efficacy and rigor as any drug would. And so what that means is once it's developed, it's tested in clinical trials, it's FDA approved, it's reimbursed by payers, and it's prescribed by doctors. And so it's pretty much every single stakeholder within the healthcare ecosystem that you could want to better understand. And so it was a really great experience for me. I tried working at a larger company as well. I led patient-facing digital strategy for kidney care at CVS Health. Learned a lot about how a large enterprise works and how innovation sort of has to happen at the fringes, but then be pulled back into the larger company too. But I missed working at smaller startups, so then I joined a venture studio. So the venture studio model essentially is we have a fund and we can either use that fund as any regular VC would. So we would invest in companies, but we're also a startup incubator. So we also incubated companies as well. So I spent a lot of time there working on healthcare AI initiatives and sort of gave me the inspiration from seeing many other portfolio companies spin out of that venture studio. And so I left recently, founded CompassRx in October. We secured our first round of funding and our first health system customer in November. And now we're just growing very quickly, and it's exciting, but I get to learn something every day. And so it's been a great journey.
I can follow Alice. So thank you, Zara and the team for inviting me to be on this panel. Very exciting to be with you all tonight. I am Joanna, and I am a founder of T-Shaped, and T-Shaped is a little bit more of the people side of science. So what we help teams and leaders do is stop wasting time in meetings that they often, well, we all spend a lot of time in. So we run a lot of workshops and we deliver coaching to help teams identify challenges or what is holding them back, or opportunities that they should tap into, and we help them find solutions to do it effectively, proactively, and fast, so they can focus on innovation instead of just going around and around in circles. So that's what we do at T-Shaped. What my story is, I'm originally from Poland. At the age of 17, I decided I was at the crossroad, and as Alice said, I also wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to study medicine, but I also really wanted to move abroad. So I was in a bit of a crossroad, and at the age of 17, I decided I'm going to move abroad. I moved to the UK, with my 2 suitcases, and then afterwards, years later, I moved to Belgium, to Brussels, and now I'm in New York City. So that's a little bit of an identity crisis, if you ask me. But my background is in medical genetics, so that was my my major, and that I followed that with earning a PhD in medical sciences. I was, and still am, extremely passionate and interested in cancer research. My PhD was on cancer research, colon cancer prevention, and I did it in the UK. My career path is definitely not linear, and after my PhD, I stayed for a few years in research in academia. I then moved to clinical trials and industry, and then when I moved to Brussels, I worked for the European institutions doing communication and dissemination of research. So that has been a lot of different changes and discovery in my career before I realized that I love science, but loving science and being a scientist are 2 different things. So that's where I started reflecting what really drives me and excites me, and that's people. So that's where I started requalifying and qualified as a professional coach and a master facilitator, and started my own business in this space. So that's me. And as Sarah also said, I am now a chair of Women in Bio, Metro New York chapter, and Women in Bio is a national organization, and we are extremely passionate about bringing women together, supporting the growth from classroom to the boardroom. So we cater for different level of careers, for different needs that women have. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here today and tell you more about my perspective on starting your careers and supporting women in those endeavors.
Thank you so much. It's really inspiring. Chidera, do you want to continue?
Yes, hello. Hi, everybody, and thank you to the LifeSci NYC team for inviting me to be on this panel. So my name is Chidera Udedibia. I got my bachelor's degree in 2023 in neuroscience and medical humanities from Columbia, and now I'm currently a researcher at Rockefeller University in the Ruta Lab studying the olfactory system in the Drosophila, or the fruit fly model. My specific project is more structural and molecular biology focused. So we're interested in kind of the substructures of the olfactory receptor and its co-receptors, and how that influences how the fruit fly understands and interprets specific volatile compounds in the environment. And then this research then goes on to inform other biomedical and biotechnological things that are way beyond us, but it's it's an honor to be a part of that process in biotechnology. So a bit about me is I also started off pre-med like the other panelists here, so that seems to be a very common thread. And similarly, I realized that not only is there more to medicine, but also there's other necessary work that has to be done. And so around my junior year of college, I started reaching out to professors and started reaching out to researchers and kind of asking them what it is they do. And that's when I learned that there is a vast world that, having a biology or neuroscience background can contribute to, besides just going straight to medical school. And, you know, it's very interesting because I feel like a lot of us are closed off from the world of research. So learning that and learning how much goes into research and what exactly it all is was such a surprise to me because I was never exposed to it prior. And with that, I then decided that I wanted to go on to conduct research and ideally, in ideal situation, obtain my PhD, which is kind of the process that I'm in right now. And yeah, so serendipitously, I, you know, discovered LifeSci NYC, like many of you, and I had interned at a biotech company through LifeSci NYC back in 2023, so my first year post-grad. And that internship was more material science, chemical engineering based, but it was still a very good introduction into the world of biotechnology and its whole entire industry. And that's when I realized that this was far more, you know, along the lines of what I wanted to do compared to traditional medicine. And so I looked for research assistant positions to kind of obtain that good quality experience before eventually applying for my PhD. So that is the process I'm in right now. And yeah, like many of you and like the other panelists, I'm also very passionate about women in STEM, and I'm very passionate about the field of life sciences and biotechnology. So I'm very excited to be here and to talk to all of you about it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Amazing. As you see, we have incredible panelists today and really interesting and different career paths, and from which we can learn a lot. And moving forward, I want to start my questions about breaking into the field, and especially it is dedicated to empowering women. And my first question is how you encountered gender-related biases. Have you ever encountered gender-related biases or stereotypes in your career path?
Haven't we all? I mean, of course, right? I think that is something that we all have encountered one way or another. Biases are like, and especially unconscious biases are like a software that runs in the background, like that app that is always there that we don't even realize that it's there. And yes, sometimes whether we like it or not, we are in a way victims of that. And it's very interesting because there are studies that show that even children being given photos or exposed to different genders or skin colors or even accents, you know, they can already form some opinions, which is, I find it absolutely fascinating. But it just shows, right, that this is all in a way wired in our system. And yeah, for me as a woman, as a foreigner, it's been I've encountered biases over and over again, and I can give you many stories, but I want to approach it a little bit differently. You know, I personally do not like to give power to those biases. I do not want to think every time something doesn't go my way, I don't like to think that this is because I'm a woman or for whatever reasons. I really try to focus on what I want to give, what is my mission, what I want to give others, and how I want to support others. And personally, I feel and I want to believe that that defends itself. So what I would say, you know, I would encourage everyone to think, instead of, you know, what is holding me back or what's the impact of my situation, and think more about, you know, what am I building, what I want to achieve, and why. And that why, I think, it's extremely powerful. And at least in my cases, despite all the experiences, that is something that keeps me going, and I like to reframe it that way.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I that really does resonate with me as well. I think As a woman in tech, I have been in situations where I'm the only woman in the entire company. And so it's just a very different environment to work in. I've also worked on female-only teams, and that was a breath of fresh air. And so there's obviously, and to put it into context, I have two co-founders. They are both white males. And so it's sort of every time you walk into a room, you know, sometimes you are overlooked and you're not the one that's being addressed directly, even if you are the subject matter expert on that topic, or even if you are the key decision maker. And I think in a lot of those situations, the way that I choose to approach it is honestly how they feel about me is out of my own control. And the only thing that I can control is how I choose to feel about the way that they're treating me. And so, and this is not to say, though, if you are in a situation where you constantly feel like other people's actions are getting you down, that you should not do something about it. Because it just has to be, I think the first question that I usually ask myself is this something that I feel is within my control, that I can change how I am interpreting the situation? If the answer is no, then it's how do I take myself out of this situation? Because at the end of the day, if you're facing biases that are impacting your ability to show up to work, to feel safe, to feel seen, and to feel supported, then it's the company's loss to have created this environment where your diverse perspective is not being highlighted or not being heard. And at the end of the day, it's their loss, and you should look for opportunities where you can feel safe and seen and supported.
Yeah, and to kind of add on to that, I remember in one of my very first, neuroscience classes, the paper that they had showed us was actually a paper showcasing several different publications that were papers that were submitted for publication. And on the left were papers with traditional male names, and on the right were papers with traditional female names. And they calculated how many of these papers were accepted and what were the reviews on these papers. And the papers that had the female names were significantly discarded and disregarded, whereas the male names were more accepted, were rated higher, and these were identical papers. And that to being my introduction to the field, and it was a very necessary lesson, and I'm glad that it was something that was told to me early on, but to say the least, it was highly, highly discouraging to learn that solely because of my gender, that I could have the exact same qualifications as my male colleagues, yet they have that advantage to them. And, that's the way the world is at the moment. And to kind of add on to that, at my first ever internship, as valuable as the experience was, I was also the only woman. And interestingly enough, so all of my coworkers at this one place were at least 70, at least. So 70 to 80s, that was the range I was working with, and they were all white men. And what that had highlighted for me was that, it wasn't until very recently that many universities and elite universities started even accepting women and women of color. So that highlighted the generational difference that I don't necessarily think about on the daily until it's time to think about it. But it really put into perspective for me just how disenfranchised generationally certain groups are. And yeah, working in it was an entirely different experience. And how I dealt with it, in the case that I ever felt like I wasn't being taken as seriously, or there was some sort of disconnect, especially in regards to language and microaggressions and just very subtle things that I know, being from this generation, are no longer acceptable, but they're older or they don't, associate very much with women, especially women of color. I would say I learned how to navigate the environment in such a way that I wasn't necessarily becoming very, what's the word I'm looking for? aggressive or anything like that, but being able to very subtly navigate those, it requires exceptional emotional and social intelligence. And that's an unfortunate thing that is expected of women and women of color, which many of us on the panel are. The ability to navigate situations in ways that are suave and don't necessarily reflect poorly back on us. And that is a thing that I know many of us possess as a consequence of, being women in this world. So I would say that.
Thank you, Chidera. I also I want to thank our panelists for being so honest and sharing their experience. And also you provided a piece of advice how you can deal with it. And it was my next question. I wanted to ask, now I want to ask about resources. What resources are available for people to overcome challenges they face due to biases or stereotypes? So if you have any suggestions.
I'd say, I mean, we can't change someone else's biases that they have against us, right? But I think having a good support system is really important. I think having good mentors in the space who can resonate with the experiences that you've had and make you feel like you're not alone goes a long way. And also the way that we process and compartmentalize the feelings that we might have around feeling discriminated against, around feeling potentially belittled is really important as well. And so personally, I work with an executive coach and I also have a therapist that I meet with weekly. And it's something that's helped immensely for me because sometimes it's a lot of these biases that were mentioned are unconscious biases. And so they're not so in your face. And sometimes you don't have the specific reason, but all you have is the feeling. And that's a lot harder to work with because you can't identify the sort of root of the problem. And that's why I think it's really important to work with someone who can help you understand what the root causes are. And then I also think having good communication skills to, if you do feel like you want to speak up about something, be able to articulate those feelings clearly is really important. So I really love, I was very lucky within my first job to have met really amazing mentors who really take the time to talk me through a lot of different issues that I've had, especially on a founder journey, which is oftentimes very lonely. And I'm meeting with tons of VCs who are primarily a male-dominated field as well. And so I say those are some good resources.
I can only second that. I was when I was reflecting on that, if to me, coaching truly was one of the biggest, most powerful resources I encountered on my path, so much so that I changed my own path into being here and talking about biases. I am biased to say that, right? But I do truly believe that this is extremely transformative resource. And to Alice's point, it's also about, at least in coaching, you get an opportunity to get to know yourself much better and understand who you are, what are your strengths, what are your own resources, what are your potential saboteurs that you may have. And having that self-awareness is so important because it puts you in a space where you understand yourself and you can trust yourself. And I often call it like you get a core in your body, like as if you were doing a lot of sit-ups, but like mental core strength, if you like. But it's something that you start understanding that, hey, I have so much to give. And through that experience, you understand how much you have, how you can present it to others. And that is extremely, extremely valuable. So I would seek definitely coaching and again, mentoring as well. It's mentoring, but also finding your tribe, finding people who can help you build what you want to build. Maybe they did it already, or maybe they are on the same path as you, and having that community and that tribe where you can just feel like you can share and everyone is on the same page and understand you, it's extremely, extremely useful. So yeah, really just kind of rephrasing and adding a little bit to what Alice said, but I truly believe that these are the most useful resources that you can get.
Yeah, and just to second or third what the previous panelists have said, one thing that has really gotten me through being a woman in STEM is having other women in STEM friends and people who are in the same boat as me. I believe having not only mentors, but also role models. So people who are in the place that you want to be, whether it's a professor, whether it's biotech, whether it's a CEO, having someone to kind of model your life after. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in the exact same way, but just someone you can look up to who can be a constant reminder to you that it can be done because it's been done before. And then the other thing that's a little more subtle that I would say has definitely changed my perspective and has contributed a lot to my growth in my professional and academic career is being a mentor, especially to younger women. And I don't know how old we all are in this group, in this Zoom call, but high school children, middle school children. For some reason, I find that in instances where I've helped younger women get into college or get their, dream research position or anything like that, it has been so rewarding to me, and it's been a reminder of what's important, and kind of just that reminder to stay together, and that no matter what's happening in the world, you can always help, you can always be a pillar for another woman, just as another woman can be a pillar to you. So I think having the bi-directional, mentorship, menteeship thing going on is very, very rewarding to oneself, even if it's helping someone else. And yeah, having role models, even if whether or not you reach out to them is up to you, but having people that you can say, wow, this person has accomplished so much, this person has a similar background to me, I hope to be like them one day, is just a constant reminder that can help you get through whatever obstacles you may face on a regular basis.
Thank you, Jidara. It's really insightful information, and as we see, it's really important to find mentors, and also being a mentor for someone else. It's kind of helping each other to go through the biases, and I think it's like regardless of gender, it could help anyone that goes through the biases, and I want to highlight it. Then we want to also talk about overall challenges that can be in the field when you are trying to go to your next step in your career. And these stories inspire many professionals, and especially those are students that are mainly undergrads here. I feel like many will benefit from these stories too. And when you said that you can find someone that inspires you as a role model, I want to ask if you have someone that inspired you, and maybe you can share who was that role model, just as continuation to the question.
That's a really good question. So I had several. So at Columbia, there was this, she's still here. She is a PI. Her name is Dr. Bianca Jones Marlin. She is a neuroscientist who studies intergenerational trauma and its heritability. So I discovered her a long time ago, and she was somebody who she's a woman in her field, and I was able to relate to her a lot, being someone who's passionate about neuroscience. So that was somebody who really got me through on days where, I was trying to get research experience and PIs weren't responding. And, I reached out to her, she didn't respond, and that's okay. But, just remembering that there's somebody out there like me who has done it before was very, very, impactful to me. And the other thing that I did was I found mentors who I found personable, even if they weren't necessarily directly related to my field. I actually had met my professor's wife, who was a psychiatrist, and I remember going to his office hours, and he was like, "You would love my wife. You remind me of her so much." And I was like, "Let me meet her." So I went to coffee with his wife, and I understood why he said we would get along. We had very similar interests, and we had, similar banter. So I actually had met with her a few more times, and she gave me advice on life Like, I don't want to be a psychiatrist necessarily anymore. And so we didn't even talk about that, but just how to, exist in the world. She was very, very helpful for that. And, she's not directly related to my field, although tangential. So just talking to women who are older than you, talking to women who have been through more than you, and finding, like Joanna had said, your tribe. It may not come in the form of someone identical to you, but finding people who you can relate to and who can impart wisdom on you is something that I found very valuable.
Thank you for sharing that too. If Alice or Joanna, you want to share who was your key inspiration, you're welcome to also share.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in. Similarly, I always struggle with that question, and I think I was asked that question many times, and I always felt like I need to have an answer, like a person, especially a person that everyone would know. But I truly feel like I'm inspired by kind of everyone I meet. So by people that either have amazing scientific minds and they are extremely creative in the science world, or they have amazing businesses. Even here listening to Alice and Chidera, I already feel inspired by them. And to me, it could be really anything. It could be the way people present themselves, in the way people lead others, the way people do their stuff, build their businesses, sell their businesses, whatever that is, also in the space of coaching, right? So there's just so many things. But I am also inspired by people who are challenging. So in my time I had some difficult encounters. I happened to work in some toxic environments as well, and that wasn't nice, that wasn't fun, but it was inspiring in a way that reflecting back on it, this is not who I want to be as a leader, right? So it's something that inspires from a different perspective, but it was extremely valuable. So I wouldn't say maybe they were my role models, but they were definitely figures that I could look at and think, okay, this is not how I want to be. This is not what I want to do. And I think that's also valuable.
Definitely, yes. It's kind of learning from others and not doing same mistakes. And, it's also a good way to overcome challenges, right?
Right. Yeah.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I think I've learned so much from my worst managers than maybe even from my best managers, because it's very revealing to you about what kind of manager you want to be and about what kind of work environment you want to cultivate for others. And I think for me, more than ever, it's a very salient topic because we are in the process of making our first hires, and I'm really actively every week thinking about what were the best experiences that I've had. And more than just what are the management styles, but more what feelings did I have when I was with a great mentor, a great manager? How do I want my employees to come to work feeling? Do I want them to feel safe? Do I want them to feel inspired? Do I want them to feel pressure? And I think that's very important. I do have some really great mentors though that I want to call out too. My first manager that I ever had, her name is Carly, and I was one of her, I think, like first direct reports. And I think what was great about her is when she started off as my manager, we didn't always get along. She came from consulting, and so the background is a bit more micromanagey, and we definitely, I think there were times where we didn't exactly work together the best, but I loved her ability to take upward feedback and grow and learn from it. And it felt like we were sort of growing hand in hand together. And that was a quality that I admired so much about her. And, you know, I'm an empath, I'm a Cancer, I'm very sensitive. And one of my biggest fears is that I will be too scared to get feedback from others, that in fear that it would hurt my feelings. But seeing the way that I've been able to communicate with her and how she really takes that information and acts on it is so inspiring, that I think it's something that, you know, that makes me want to incorporate that into my practice as well, as a leader. And then another one is just when I was at CVS Health, the president of the kidney care department, her name is Lisa Rometty. She is one of the busiest, most well-connected women you will ever meet, and yet she still takes the time to talk to me, which at that time I was just a manager. I was just working on one of the apps and the multiple things that Kidney Care was doing, and she still took the time to meet with me once a month to share her personal experiences and to ask if there was any areas where I wanted to learn and grow that she could be a resource for. And for me, even though it was one 30-minute call every month, it meant the world to me. And knowing that the resource that you can provide, which might not be much effort for you, could mean that much to someone else, was also really inspiring to me as well.
Thank you, Alice. We also have a comment from Anna Mai. She says that, Joanna, when you stated that you do not allow the negative feedback, I think that it is an excellent approach, because it's very important to create a language of inclusivity. Many beliefs about women in sciences are generally generationally, and therefore cultivating a language in spite of these rooted biases can help the other ones with the biases to understand that rooted ideas and words expressed whether verbal or non-verbal truly heard. So it's like really interesting feedback, and thank you for sharing that. Because we are short in time, we can now open for Q&A. We have one person who raised the hand. I think you can go ahead and talk. Mm-hmm. We can hear you. Maybe you can unmute yourself.
Oh, thank
Yep.
you. It wasn't letting me do that. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this panel and everything. So I'm a sophomore currently, studying applied math and neuroscience at Williams College. And a question I have for you, Joanna, is I'm personally really interested in like business management and strategic applications. And going into college, I was really was considering like maybe a PhD in neuroscience afterwards, but I'm also really interested in business insight. So I was curious, in your experience, do you find that your PhD has strengthened that aspect in your consulting strategic work right now? And what do you recommend kind of for someone in my position, like what really helped you along the way?
Thank you, Rhea, right? I hope I pronounced Rhea. It's such a good question, and it's very hard to say, to be honest. I did my PhD straight after my undergraduate degree, so I just jumped right in. And do I regret it? No. Would I do it differently if I did it again? Yes. I think, you know, getting perspective, trying different things, exploring a little bit more about like what you like, what's around there, different career paths, different opportunities. I think this is extremely valuable experience and something that could give you like very different knowledge about yourself and about what's available. And so I would, you know, of course it's your choice, and there's so many questions around why do you want to do a PhD, or what's important to you about doing a PhD, and or BD experience. But I would say that giving yourself time and explore would be valuable. You know, it's something that you can definitely add to your toolbox of things that you like or you don't like, and think from that perspective. So I wouldn't rush into it unless you feel that the research is really what you want to do. At the time, I did 2 internships, funny enough. So after my second year of undergraduate degrees, I took a gap year and I did one internship at industry and the second one at the research institution, big institute. I didn't like the industry. I loved research. So that's why when I went back to school, I was like, I'm going to do a PhD. Like I was so in love with that. And then only after I was like, there's just so many other things. So yeah, having time gives you more perspective. But if PhDs, there is the why behind it, maybe that's the right choice. And I'm happy to talk more about it if you want outside of this panel as well. And if you want to brainstorm ideas.
Thank you, Joanna, for answering this question. Next question is for Chidera in the chat. How did you come to love research? Because I'm thinking of looking for research opportunities, but I'm scared that I'm not going to like it, and it'll be tiresome. So, please.
Hello, that is a very good question and a very valid concern. To that, I would say, especially if you're still an undergrad, just hopefully try it. If you have the privilege to do it, you don't have to stay if you find that you don't like it, but it's a worthwhile experience that will inform your decisions going forward. And it's one of the reasons why I tried it was, the constant feeling of what if it was for me, and the only way I figured it out was by trying it. There's no harm in just experimenting and trying new things. And the fear that it will be tiresome, I will say it can be tiresome, but it doesn't have to be tiresome. In my experience, it's not tiresome because I have established a work-life balance and boundaries. There are people who neglect their boundaries, and my advice to you is to not be one of those people, and don't let your PI make you into one of those people. So yeah, I think it's worth a shot, especially if you're still in college. It can be a good part-time job, and a great thing to put on your resume, even if you don't continue on to research. So my advice to you is try it, see how you like it.
Thank you, Chidera. And that's why also Life Science Internship Program here to provide you this hands-on experience so that you kind of understand if you like it or not. Next question is, what's a valuable lesson you've learned while on your career journey, and do you wish you did anything different while on your journey to find a career? Maybe Alice, would you want to answer?
I can take that one. I think a valuable lesson that I learned is you should always feel empowered to advocate for yourself. I think that is something that is oftentimes gender bias also between men and women is women tend to think that we will let our work speak for itself. And in my first job, I spent years just working really hard, becoming a really valuable asset to the company, and then being so confused when they promoted someone else over me, who did way less work than I did, who had way less output to show. But unless you're advocating for yourself and fighting to move up, people will take it's a business. If you're providing this much value and you're not asking for anything, they will continue to take the value that you provide them. But really understanding what your position is and what you have to offer and how you can leverage that to get the best deal for yourself. And I really do believe that more women should be selfish. When it comes to your own personal careers, you should put yourself first. And so I had this and another difference I think that I've seen in that vein is honestly, the way that men and women present themselves are very, very different. A lot of men will say something and have no data to back it up, and they'll just say it as fact, and everyone will believe them. But when a woman speaks, she needs to be able to prove her work. Otherwise, where's the credibility in what you've just said, right? And so it's very different. And when I taught myself to try and break free of that imposter syndrome and say everything like I believed in it, like there was data behind it, sometimes there wasn't data behind it. I found that people listened. And I think that's one of the big mindset shifts that I was able to make that allowed me to advance much quicker in my career. Don't think I would have ever applied for such a senior level role at CVS thinking I was underqualified. But if you, honestly, you manifest the life that you want. If you believe that you are qualified and you're willing to work hard, I truly believe you can do anything that you set your mind to.
Thank you for advice. We have so many questions. So next one is, I like this question. How can I transition from academia to industry? Most of my experience is in research, and my resume is filled with research projects. However, I'm unsure how to demonstrate that these skills can be applied in an industry settings. I feel like it's another topic for a career panel. Anyone wants to answer?
I mean, I can jump quickly. I think it is a whole new topic that it's
Yeah.
a great topic for a career panel. I would say first that industry value the skill set that you earn in academia, right? So like just put it out there that it's a valuable experience and you have a lot to offer. But you need to think what industry, depending on the position you're applying for, of course, but what do they care about, right? In industry, there are different priorities. Different things are important. So you need to translate your research work into the language of industry. So that's really putting it simply. We can talk a lot about how you should format your resume, like, you know, making sure it's quick to the point. But I would say if and probably one page, you know, be very, very strategic about what you are putting there, making sure that you use your transferable skills to show the impact of what you can offer. So there are those tips and tricks that you can use, but definitely put yourself in the shoes of someone in industry and think, okay, I'm applying for this position. What do they really want to achieve, and how can I rephrase or reframe what I have into that language?
Thank you so much for answering this question. Because we already almost 7, I will ask one more question and then we will close the career panel. So on the note of empowering women in your career, what did you experience with negotiations like, whatever it been in salaries or responsibilities?
This is a good one. I can
Yeah.
can take this because I've jumped jobs many times and spend a lot of time thinking about how to price salaries as well. So I think in the same vein of what I said about advocating for yourself in terms of promotions, you should always also think about advocating for yourself in terms of the salary. I think the first thing that you can do when you get into any job is to set expectations and set boundaries, right? What is my role? I personally, anytime I go into a new job, if it's a job where there is room to move up, I speak with my manager, and within the first 60 days, I set goals for what I want to achieve. And we also set attainable goals for what it'll take for me to get to the next level. And attainable goals, as in what are the things that I can do to get to the next level, not what company metrics does the company have to hit in order for me to get there. Because you could be waiting forever for the company to hit X dollars in revenue or to hire X number of people. But and these are things that you should honestly talk about in the interview process as well. What are the salary expectations? And I will say everything in life is negotiable. I work with many vendors and I know that firsthand. And so you should never take the first number that they give you. If you're getting equity, you should never take the first equity offer either. Nothing is off the table too. If they truly can't move the needle on anything, okay, let's do an equity refresh in a couple of months, 6 months or so. And then you set those attainable goals and you craft a narrative. Every time you go to ask for a raise that you feel like you deserve, you should be able to back it up with real hard data of what you've done to be able to get there. And so I think being very upfront, it's a business, there is no like dilly-dallying around conversations like this. They expect you to talk about things like this. And so getting into the job, and you're not money driven for asking about money, you are there to do your job. And so you should always set those expectations up front. And once you meet them, you should revisit those conversations.
Thank you, Alice. I think this is really important advice. And sometimes we hesitate to ask for example, more salary, increase of salary. So always negotiate and think about what you can offer. Thank you so much. I want to thank our amazing panelists. Your words will surely resonate with and inspire many students here and those who generally attendees. I want to also thank you to being so honest, sharing your experience and advices. And I wish all of us to have a great continuation of the evening. And see you on our next career panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much and good luck, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.